All right, welcome back, everyone, to the SFLGBT Center's Employment Services web series. Today is Thursday, May 7th. My name is Naomi. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm joined by my amazing colleague, Slay. Slay, did you want to introduce yourself? Sorry.
Hi, my name is Slay. I use they, them, theirs, and I'm the employer engagement coordinator at the center.
Yes. It's just the two of us today. Today has been, honestly, I know, yes, but today has been a very, very weird day for a lot of people. We were planning on talking about something completely different, and then we woke up and the news just kind of changed what was most salient for us. So please bear with us, but also know that, this is a conversation that's deeply important to both of us. And I know that we speak for Mia as well, and really the rest of the center as well, that, these are just candid conversations that we need to have. Um, and, that they're going to be messy, emotional, but also hopefully bring empowerment and hope. Yeah, with that being said, today's topic is just going to be around violence and overcoming violence through action and through mobilizing and through community. And so, just to kind of start us off, the news that really everyone is talking about right now was in regard to Ahmaud Arbery, who was a Black man who was killed while running in Georgia. He was running in a neighborhood outside of Brunswick, Georgia on February 23rd, and was gunned down by two white men. The case has still been unsolved. They still have not made any arrests. And they pretty much are calling this a modern day lynching. And so I know for me, I I just am so tired of seeing Black people being killed on a daily basis. I'm so tired of our humanity not being seen as humanity. And I'm tired of people who, hashtag us and then move on and don't really, make intentional choices in their everyday lives to protect Black people, and specifically to protect Black trans people. I know that there's been, within the last week, and really within the last month, there's been, I think, 3 trans deaths, 2 in Puerto Rico and 1 here in the United States. And so, Slay, did you want to share a little bit about what you know about that and just how you're feeling?
Yeah, so I mean, how I'm feeling is hard to describe because it's a mix of sadness and also like an awareness that I'm, as a trans person, very lucky for my life circumstances, and trying to like not take on the pain of others while trying to uplift it. And in particular, when I'm thinking about Puerto Rico, like anti-trans violence has been on the rise, and just the whole story of how basically two women went on a date and the men decided to, I think, carjack them. They set their vehicle on fire, and it really just like sits with me that going on a date can be a life-threatening thing. And yes, that is something that not just trans people experience, but I think the rate at which trans people experience violence as it relates to dating is, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves.
Higher.
Yeah, like significantly higher. And also the amount of protections that are in place for something like that after the fact. Hate crime laws are so hard to actually get a conviction on, and I think that's why a lot of times people who kill trans people get away with it, because it's so hard to prove the action was motivated by hate when it's, I guess for me, it seems so obvious. And I'm constantly asking myself, like, why is it seems so obvious to me and so many people in my community, but everybody who has power, it's inconsequential. Or you can't prove hate, and it's like the action, the violence is the proof. And I think asking for more is very dehumanizing and takes away from the fact that a violent act happened. Yeah, and just to, I mean, we're a couple months into this year, and I think 12 trans women have been killed. Like 5 months, 12 people. That, I mean, it leaves me speechless because it's just so, it sits so deeply. And sometimes it really feels like I want to go and do things to help support people in my community and outside of my community. And I a lot of times come to realize the people who need to be doing stuff and showing up aren't doing it, because like, yes, I hold privilege in relation to other people in my community, but I'm still trans. And I think when I hear about trans violence, that sits with me because I'm like, wow, I'm trans and I can't help my community. And that is something that I am constantly kind of trying to figure out how to navigate within myself, and then how to make sure that I'm still using my privilege to help people in my community.
Well, I mean, I will say that, you know, on that last note, I do think that on a certain level, we are using our privilege. You know, I think that platforms like this, you know, the purpose of it being created was really to magnify voices and experiences, and not only to just educate, but also to just be in community with each other. And I think that, as we know, community is a privilege. And so I'm, you know, super grateful to be talking with you. And I'm glad that people are tuning in and feel like conversations like these are important. Um, I do think it's important to name the 3 women in specific that we're talking about. And so the first woman, her name was Leila Pelaiz. Sorry if my pronunciation is not correct. And then the next one is Serena Velasquez. And so those were the 2 women who were found in Puerto Rico. And then the woman who was found here in the United States, her name was Nina Pop. And that was in Missouri. And so, you know, just wanted to name that. So, you know, I think when we're talking about this, and something that I wanted to touch on that you said that was great, was a conversation about allies and a conversation about who has more privilege and who doesn't. I think that in terms of the LGBTQ plus community, I think we know that people who probably hold the most privilege out of everyone are white gay men. I think and bisexual folk. And I think that white people across the whole spectrum of the community, I really am hoping that, you know, they mobilize and really form coalitions to protect Black and brown trans folks who are being brutalized and whose lives are constantly in jeopardy. I know that there are different like online communities forming where white people, in particular white queer folks, hold each other accountable and hold, when I say each other, I mean other white people, to take that labor off of people of color, particularly Black and Indigenous folk. And so I know that they have different social media sites, but one of the sites that I'm probably most aware of, and forgive me, I'm going to pull it up, is the White Nonsense group. And so, you know, their focus, and I think, you know, we're pretty in line with it at the center, is that, you know, marginalized people and people who are just on, when we say marginalized, I mean people who have not the same access and not in lower levels of privilege. Those folks do not have to be nice to you. Those folks do not have to educate you. Those folks don't have to prove their oppression to you. They don't have to make you, I'll say we don't have to make you feel comfortable. And I think that, you know, when folks who are not as oppressed give their opinions, it's important to understand that, you know, those opinions don't hold equal weight. You can't really negate someone else's oppression. And so, you know, this what we're not trying to do oppression Olympics here. What we're really just trying to do is center those who really don't have the platforms and who don't have voices to really advocate for themselves on the same magnitude. Was there anything else to add to that, Slay?
No, I mean, I agree with everything that you're saying. And I just think that the numbers speak for themselves. Like I not that I like to go back to the numbers, but I think statistics are helpful in understanding like large scale issues, and just the facts are white queer folks are not experiencing violence at the rates that Black and brown cis and or trans people in the community are experiencing. And so I just encourage all of the white queers watching this to like use this as an opportunity to reflect inward and figure out ways that you can show up for the community. And that means so many different things. A lot of times money, also time, energy. I think there's a lot of value in remembering trans folks who have passed, and not just remembering them for how they were taken from us, but how they lived their life prior to that. And I think
Our talents, yes.
talents, the trans community is like the most beautiful community I've ever experienced. And I don't think enough of our allies uplift the beauty that we are. And so I would also encourage folks to not only, you know, focus on the numbers and focus on the tragedy, but also find ways to empower the positive, because that's just as important as empowering the negative aspects that we need to highlight.
And not just for those that are gone, who are past, but those of us who are still here today, and who are still, you know, having the audacity to live life out loud. And so, exactly, Slay. And I think a quote that I wanted to just kind of name is from Assata Shakur, who is a Black revolutionary. She said that any community seriously concerned with its own freedom has to be concerned with other people's freedom as well. And so, you know, we know that oppressions are interlinked. And so, you know, I think it's really about coalition building and really uniting in freedom and unity as a people. And so, you know, what I don't want to happen, and what I don't want to happen for myself, is to get so bogged down with news that I let it steal my joy. You know, I feel like there is something about being Black and joyful, and trans and joyful, that is beautiful, and that is something that just should be protected. And so, you know, I'm curious to know, Slay, like, what are the ways in which you're setting boundaries for yourself, and I guess essentially protecting your joy?
So as I mentioned in in our first episode, I like have set some pretty heavy boundaries with myself for checking news, just because I get really overwhelmed, and also hyper focus on things, and I'm working on learning that behavior. So that's one way that I set boundaries. I also have started up the practice of like gratitude. So a lot of times at the end of the day, I am still working on it. So I don't do it every day, but I will sit down and write down like 3 things I'm grateful for. So a lot of times I'll say I'm, you know, grateful for my life. I'm grateful for my health, and I'm grateful to have a support system. And so doing that is something that helps me, and also reminds me, because I think when I think about anti-trans violence, I think about like isolation, and just a lot of like aloneness. And so for me, focusing on gratitude allows me to focus on the wholeness rather than the emptiness. And that's just something that has worked for me recently. I'm curious as to what are ways that you are able to preserve your joy?
This is why I love you, because I feel like we're always like so interlinked somehow, some way. Okay, so this is like a short story time. In November 2015, I was a cute little junior at UC Berkeley, This was well before my transition. And the Office of Diversity and Inclusion invited Laverne Cox to come speak. And so, because I'm like the biggest fan, I love her in practically everything that she does. She's an amazing opera singer, an amazing just activist. I was like, I have to go. And I got the chance to meet her at that talk. And I asked her, I was like, what advice do you have for someone who's just figuring it out and really is trying to, outline their own path? She said, really root yourself in joy and gratitude. And what she does is she has a gratitude journal. And this is my gratitude journal. I've had this journal.
Okay, the viewers need to know this is like unplanned. We did.
No. I literally was writing in my gratitude journal this morning because I was like, I need to anchor myself in some kind of positivity. And so I've had this since like 2015, December 2015. And I pretty much, sometimes I only can write like one thing because like some days are harder than others. And then other times I write like whole paragraphs. And so I think, that advice that she gave me was so crucial just because it has helped me, not even just in terms of my transition, but even in terms of like applying for grad school and family issues and just like being a young millennial diva. Like it's helped me, anchor myself to, quote Cynthia Bailey, love and light. And I feel like I had to. And I feel like, the advice I would give folks out there is really, as we've been saying, set boundaries for yourself, both in terms of your space and also in terms of just like your mind, your body, your spirit. Those are all worthy of protection and love and, being fed into. And so, gratitude journals is one way of doing that. Other ways of doing that could be reading. I have some great books that I'm also reading right now. Small Doses by Amanda Seales. But not to plug too much, I just think that, reclaiming your joy is one way to kind of stay afloat in these times in whatever ways that, are possible for you. So, yeah.
And I think having patience with yourself too, like you said, like some days you only write one thing and like, and that's the one thing you need to write that day. That's also something that I've really been working on is like, I want to be doing all these things that are great and unlearning and whatever, but like progress is not linear. And also I'm not going to change. I'm not going to wake up one morning and be like, oh, all of the problematic behaviors that you learned are gone now. And so like just holding patience and kindness with myself, I think is also like a really good, I don't know if it's necessarily a boundary, but it's a new practice that I'm trying to integrate into like making sure that I'm feeling and acknowledging the joy that I have in my life.
And like something else too is that like, it doesn't have to be like journaling. It doesn't have to be kind of like the normal therapeutic versions of like self-care. It can be like watching Netflix or, going outside or getting your hair done, or something that just makes you feel joyful, and so, I think we're both saying we encourage y'all to find what works for you. There's no, written playbook on how to do this. It's really just all of us figuring it out as we go. But, we just wanted y'all to know that you're not in it alone and that we're here with you. And we're all, to quote High School Musical, we're all in this together. For those of you who don't know, if there's like a cheesy pop culture reference I can put in there, I will do it. In this talk alone, I think I referenced Housewives of Atlanta, High School Musical. Is there anything else? I think that's it. But before we sign off, I know that today may be a little bit shorter. Was there anything else you wanted to kind of touch on, Slay? Any last words we can depart with?
Just that I am so happy to be here and to be queer, and I'm sending all the trans people out there lots of love today and every day.
Yes. Yes. And, I will say thank you all so much for, tuning in. And thank you all so much for just like your kindness and the love that we've received on social media. And I will say that, we love y'all so much. And, part of what centering community and really just community is about is love. And so, just know that everything that you see from us is really just rooted in love and the love that we have for ourselves, each other, and for y'all. So thank y'all so much. If you all have any suggestions for next week's topic or any, kind of reactions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Follow us on all our social media at SFLGBT Center. We're on Instagram, Facebook. Both me, myself, Slay, and Mia are seeing clients still. So if you are looking for a job or just general advice on employment, please feel free to contact us at EmploymentServices@sfcenter.org. We will be sure to put all of our contact information in the description box below. All right. Thank you all so much and enjoy your day. All right. Bye.
Bye.